Accounts define the structure of your financial system. In this session, we're going to go over what accounts do for you and the account hierarchy used in CenterPoint. Accounts describe the movement of resources within your company. Accounts are used in transaction financial activity to record your different things that you do in your operation, and also used to summarize that activity for reporting purposes. Accounts represent a financial picture of your operation through your balance sheets, your income statements, and various other reports in CenterPoint. But your financial picture will only be as accurate as the data that you are entering into those accounts. A transaction cannot be entered without an account, and CenterPoint will make sure that it always enters a balanced transaction. Now let's take a look at our account hierarchy, and it begins with account types. Your account types are predefined and follow accounting standards, beginning with balance sheet account types. And your assets are the items that you own. Your liabilities are your debts or obligations you owe to someone else. Your equities are your net worth and represented by investments and your accumulated net profit loss. And then your income statement account types are revenues, which represent the different ways you generate income. Your cost of goods, which are specific expenses directly related to the producing of that income. Your expenses are costs of operating your company. And then other revenue and other expenses are income and expenses not directly related to sales. All of your income statement account types are represented on the balance sheet through an equity account called retained earnings. When you enter revenue and other revenue, it's going to increase retained earnings. When you enter cost of goods, expenses, and other expenses, it will decrease retained earnings. Now let's look at an account hierarchy for the account type of expenses. And under account type, next is account category. Account categories organize the accounts which are in each account type. So each account category is going to represent a particular type of expense under that particular category. And it also has characteristics often for some of the account categories that maintain details that aren't in other categories. And we'll get to that in just a little bit. But let's right now look at the account levels that we have now under account category, which is our next level on the hierarchy. And in the accounts, you can have up to 3 levels. Accounts is where you're going to actually be posting your financial activity, and you can have up to 3 different levels. When you are entering the transaction activity, you're always going to be posting to the lowest level of that account. So if we look, for example, in our expenses, we have these 3 account categories for utilities expense, general and administration, and selling expense. And under utilities expense, we have 3 level 1 accounts of electricity, disposal, and communication. But this user wanted a little bit more detail under communication, but didn't want to see that detail all the time, wanted to be able to summarize that detail into communication, but still be able to maintain a breakdown of all of these different pieces of communication. So under communication, we have 2 level 2 accounts for telephone and internet service. But then additionally, under internet service, we have 2 level 3 accounts for internet fee and internet equipment. When we enter transactions, we will only be entering to the lowest level. So in this case, we'll be entering to internet equipment, internet fee, and telephone. We won't be entering anything to communication or internet service because those are not the lowest level in this particular example. But when we are doing our reports, we could do it at level 3 and see the activity to internet fee and internet equipment and telephone. Or if we wanted to summarize by a higher level and do level 2, then we would see it under telephone and internet service. Or if we rolled it up to level 1, we would see all of this activity to communication. So it's all in what you're needing at that time, and reports in CenterPoint are completely customizable of picking the level at the time that you're running the report. The level of accounts that you have in the different categories is completely customizable to you also. Your account names will be what you are wanting them to be. The account number, the abbreviation, that's all customizable for you. And the levels that you use across the different account categories doesn't need to be the same. So in this example, general administration has all level 1 accounts. In selling expense, we have 2 level 1 accounts, but one of the accounts has a level 2 under it with 2 level 2s. It's completely going to match what you need for your management purposes and the detailing for the different reports that you need to provide. So we're now going to go take a look at account categories of how they are used and set up. So I'm going to go here to account categories under setup and accounts and account categories. And we're looking at a list of account categories that have been installed in your system, and you can add additional account categories if you need to. If you want to break out a particular account type into other account categories, like our example actually did do that. Under expenses, the only account categories here are selling expense and general and administration and depreciation, and it added a utilities expense. This one here we can delete, that was added, and we're just going to highlight that one. It's never been used, it let us delete it. If we wanted to create a new one, we just click the new button in the lower left, and we can give this account category a name. So we're going to call this utilities expense, and this is an active box here. If you don't have, if you want to inactivate some of the account categories that you don't use, you can do that with a right click out at the list. But if there are no accounts under that account category, you won't see them in your reports anyway. And then your sequence number is the order that it would be on your financial statements. So we're just going to give this a 7300, and it will be in the account type of expenses. I typed in a couple of characters, or you could do your lookup. And then under the account type are classes. And the account classes separate the account types and create labels for financial statements. So in the case of expenses, there's only the one for general. If you were in an assets account type, then you would be seeing current assets and intermediate assets and long-term assets, and the same in liabilities. And then subclasses is another sub-level of your class, again, for grouping the different things on your financial statements. So in this case, it'll be just under expenses. And then the balance sheet grouping are for your balance sheet type of accounts. And then we would be able to save that. It would add that as another account category under our list. The different account categories also have different properties. So if we were looking at a long-term debt liability and an account under a long-term debt, it stores different pieces of detail on that account for accrued interest information and interest rate and number of payments. Or if we were in a buildings and improvement or machinery and equipment type of account category, then it would be maintaining depreciation information and a purchase date and a sold date. The account categories of cash would define the accounts that you're looking at when you're in a cash payment or a cash receipt and doing the bank account lookup. You would be seeing accounts in the account category of cash. Or the account category of accounts receivable would be the accounts you would see in the receivable account for a customer invoice, and the same for accounts payable. A vendor invoice, you're going to see the accounts in accounts payable or credit card payable when you're doing a vendor invoice. So your different account categories have different purposes for that particular type of an account. Let's take a look at our inventory account category. And this particular account category is one that you might want to maintain balance details. So the other thing an account category manages is if you want to keep subledger balances for the accounts that are in that category. So in this case, it's inventory, and we want to be able to maintain a balance that we have of that inventory at the different places that we store that particular inventory, our different warehouses, for example. Then we can go to the balance detail, and here's where we can define on the right side what pieces of information we want to store as a subledger balance. And if you want to store a piece of information, then you highlight that particular item and you click your green arrow and put it to the right. And the order here also is ordering the details of those subledger balances. We don't really want project. We want to maintain inventory location and inventory lot for our inventory. So every account that we have, every inventory item we have under this inventory account category will also have details that will maintain what is available at our different locations for the quantity and dollars remaining there. And then we have our templates tab. So on our templates, we can assign, or the account category assigns the default template being used for accounts in that account category. And what a template is in CenterPoint is a pattern that identifies the accounts that are posted in a financial activity using that account and whether they increase or decrease, and also manages the details for management purposes if you're maintaining, for example, profit center details on that account. The templates are also forming the calculations needed in that particular activity. For example, if you're selling inventory, it's going to take the quantity that you're selling and multiply that times the cost per unit of that inventory to calculate what the cost is for that particular sale. All of that is being done for you through the template. The template is making your entry quick and easy, but still maintaining all of those details for you for management and for financial purposes, and still making sure that that entry is always balanced. So those are some different things that account categories can do for you. And in our next session, we're going to be going over creating a new account, and that will be in our account setup class. You can also create new accounts from your transaction screens, and we'll also go over that when we do our account setup class.